Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to the Pop Wall, and welcome back to a bit more Kylie. We're going back to 1991 and the Let's Get To It era, which was Kylie's fourth and final Stock Aitken Waterman produced PWL released album. I might have tried that take about 4 times. That's the first one I got right, so bear with me. So this album was released in the UK in October 1991 and Australia in November 1991. It wasn't released in America. I think I said on a previous one that there was kind of a big gap for America between releases. I don't think she then went on to release anything formally in the US until Fever, which was a good 10 years after this. So sorry, America, you missed out on some peak Kylie, but you're getting it now with attention to, all right? So if you've seen my previous videos, you will know that I take a look back at what was happening around the time of the album release. So we come off the back of Kylie the album, Enjoy Yourself, Rhythm of Love, and now Let's Get To It. Now at this point, 1991, the music scene in the UK was changing. We were very heavily into dance and club orientated music. Kylie knew this. She was going clubbing in London. She knew the score. She knew what was going on. And so I think she pushed back to Stock Aitken Waterman and PWL to be more involved in this. And this is the first time that she had a major writing credit on her albums, co-writing a number of songs. Now, this could well have also coincided with one of Stock Aitken and Waterman leaving, which I'm sure kind of had a bit of an effect on that. But the overall sound at the time in the charts is very much New Jack Swing, so I think Boys to Men kind of sound, Bobby Brown, that real American sounding dance, house, pop, R&B fusion. So this is kind of what they were going for with Let's Get To It. Now, it's a great album. I love it. It's one I listen to probably more often than some of the others, if I'm being honest, of that era. But it didn't do particularly well, sadly. It didn't reach the top 10 in either the UK or Australia, which is a bit shocking looking back, really. And overall, it went on to sell 910,000 copies worldwide, which by today's numbers is really fantastic. But bear in mind, her peak was something like 6 million. That's quite a huge difference. And at that point, she knew she was ready to move on from PWL and Stock Aitken Waterman. She knew she wanted to do something else. And I think they knew they wanted to do something else and that they'd done everything they could for her career at that point. So it was a bit of a bittersweet ending, but also a bit of a great start for the rest of her career. So looking back at that period in October 1991 and what else was happening, the top 10 was, let's just call it, messy. That's the best way to describe it. So I've got to be honest, there were some good dance records around, but the top three, now this is a choice when this was released. Number one, Brian Adams, Everything I Do. I'm really sorry if I've re traumatized anybody for that song being mentioned and it might be stuck in your head. I apologise. I'm really sorry. Number two was The Scorpions with Wings of Change. And number three was Monty Python, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. That's quite some top three there. However, in the rest of the top 10, there was a fair amount of what you'd call club friendly and maybe a little bit less mainstream. And three of my favourites at the time was Oceanic, Insanity, which is a great UK rave song, and that was huge. That was played everywhere throughout the summer. I think it might have even been on White Label before that. You had Two Unlimited, Get Ready for This, Eurodance banger. Let's be honest, we all kind of a little bit like, are we meant to like Two Unlimited now? But we do. We do. And Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex, which again is that new swing, American sounding rap house hybrid that was really big at the time. Um, and that was kind of the basis, I think, for Let's Get to It, the album. It was much more mature sounding. Kylie was clearly going out and being influenced by all of that was going on in the clubs. They also created, for Let's Get to It, and before it was released, a bit of an alter ego for Kylie as a white label to the clubs called Angel K. Now, they released several white labels clubs that were fairly successful, um, probably in reality because people didn't know it was her. I think had they known it was Kylie, they probably would have been a little bit snobbish. And I'm using that word very specifically because I think at this point, PWL were probably being looked down upon quite badly as manufactured, factory based, churning out hit after hit after hit that just sounded and looked the same. The squeaky bubblegum pop that was all safe and kid friendly. And bear in mind, Pete Waterman was also doing the Hitman and Her roadshow. And for those in America, let me give you a quick one on this. So imagine, how can I describe this? Imagine Jersey Shore, but live filmed in a nightclub at 1 o'clock in the morning and broadcast live with lots of club music, with dancers, talking to the audience or the clubbers that were in the club, but maybe not necessarily like the proper clubby clubs. We're talking like your mainstream sticky carpet clubs. It was an experience. Go and look it up on YouTube. Hitman and Her. It's an experience. So obviously they trialed some of the tracks there for Angel K, and it was really really big. So the two particular ones were Do You Dare and Closer, were big tracks on the scene at the time. If you hear it and you know what Kylie's voice sounds like, you will absolutely know it's Kylie. I knew it at the time, but part of me was like, is it someone pretending to be Kylie or is this Kylie? What's going on? But I love these songs. They're amazing. They are absolutely worth listening to. So, in terms of the singles that were released at the time, the first single and the lead single, which was released before the album, which was in August, is Word Is Out. This was a bit sassy, a bit sexy, and clearly off the back of what they'd started through the back end of the Enjoy Yourself tour of having more of an adult, um, sexy, sensual Kylie. The video was going through Camden. It was a first. It was also a first single not to reach the top 10 as well. And I think it was, for some people, it was obviously such a jolt to suddenly see sexy Kylie that people didn't really get what she was doing. They thought it was a bit, oh, she's just playing dress up, is the kind of comments you heard at the time, which is actually really unfair and quite sexist, particularly of a lot of journalists and a lot of press at the time. They were a little bit like she couldn't really do anything right for being criticised. Now, fun fact in the video, one of Kylie's friends and a video DJ at the time, who's gone on to become an absolute icon in the UK, Davina McCall, is in the video. So keep a lookout for that one. In hindsight, I do think that it had good feedback. I think there are other songs on the album that I prefer, and I think maybe would have made better singles. Perhaps Closer, or I Guess I Like It Like That would have been an interesting choice as a lead single. But I understand why they wouldn't have gone for that, because that would have implied a dance album, of which it isn't. It has dance elements. It's a very safe bet as a lead single. And the second single was released around the time of the album release, which is If You Were With Me Now. And that reached number 4. And it became one of her first singles to get top 10 that she co-wrote. So, yay. Well done, Kylie. We love this for you. We absolutely love this. It's a duet with Keith Washington. It's a beautiful song. It's a shame it's never really performed much live with someone else duetting on behalf of that. She always does kids, and no one wants to hear it. We want to hear this. Please, if you were with me now, come on, Kylie, sing it live. We want to hear it. It's great. And I actually think it's, don't tell anyone, I actually think it's better than Especially for You. Don't cancel me, but I do. I love this song. The third single that came out was Give Me Just a Little More Time in January 1992. And this is a cover of the Chairman of the Board single. It's good all round pop song. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's fun. It's cheery. She's in a swishy dress. It's a bit monochrome in the video. It's the highest performing single from the album, reaching number 2, which, looking back, I'm genuinely shocked. It feels very meh to me, but again, it's very safe, very chart friendly, very family friendly. And then the final single, which I think is also a fan favourite, certainly one of my favourites, was April 1992, and that was Finer Feelings. It's just absolute classic Kylie. Black and white video. She looks stunning in the video in Paris. Beautiful song, beautiful vocals, but it only reached number 20. She was robbed, Britain. What were you thinking? So off the back of Let's Get To It, the album, they'd already had the Enjoy Yourself tour, which morphed into and became the European and UK leg of kind of the extension of that previous tour, but with new costumes. I think the staging is bigger, and it certainly was something. I was there. It was, I'm proud to say, my first ever live concert was Kylie. Let's Get To It, and I will treasure it forever. It was amazing. For those of you who were there where I was, it was at the famed Whitley Bay Ice Rink, which is in the northeast of the UK. So this tour was clearly very heavily influenced by Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour, which had happened previously. And our lovely pint-sized pop princess put her everything into it. There was costumes, there was staging, there was lighting, there was dancers. And to say she got a reaction was an underestimation. The newspapers at the time were outraged. They had pictures of her in her outfits. They were, what's going on with sexy Kylie? What's this grown-up Kylie? It's too explicit for kids. Don't take your kids to see this. It's too raunchy. It was perfect. It was perfect for Kylie at that moment. Looking back, it's hilariously not raunchy. It really isn't. It's a little spicy for younger kids, but it's nothing we haven't seen. Yes, we can see a bit of Kylie's bum, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not really that much compared to what a lot of other people would have been doing on a live show around that time. So the skimpy outfits were created by John Galliano, who was a really big fashion designer at the time. And her famous look was the skimpy fishnet bodysuit with the see-through plastic MAC. I know, sexy, right? We all want one. And the image when she turns around is kind of a bit of a thong up the back, and her bum is on display. And obviously the cameras focused in on that. That was on every single publicity shot in the press, and it did nothing to stop the sales of the tour. It was a sellout. Of course, it was going to be a sellout. It was classified as raunchy. It was new Kylie. It was sexy Kylie. Of course, it was going to. And obviously, all of us fans, particularly of a certain age, absolutely loved it. It was a great show. It was full of hits, back-to-back dance songs, back-to-back Kylie classic hits. But also, it was recorded and it was released eventually as I think this is the bootleg one, is Live in Dublin CD. There are 17 tracks. can see it. Lovely Kylie on the back there. And it was also released on VHS, if I recall, as live in Dublin, and that was a pretty big seller for Kylie. That was the first one that we'd ever had, and it was an amazing tour. She was perfection. It just worked for her, and that was kind of her swan song for PWL until they decided to go for a greatest hits compilation not long after, but we'll come on to that. In terms of versions of the album, obviously this is the big cherry red collector's edition, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's vinyl sized. I've still got the lovely sticker on mine. How nice is that? And we'll come to that one in a second. So we have the standard version, just like this. As you can see, there are 10 tracks. Not a bad track listing. But this one is the Mushrooms one. So this is the Australian release. That's the standard release of the album. I've also covered the Live in Dublin. You can see here there's a little bit of write-up. There's a couple of pictures and the CD inside. Some lovely little pictures there. It's really cute. They need to release these on Blu-ray. We need early Kylie on Blu-ray. Come on. Come on, you know you can do it. You know you can do it. Now, the other edition I have here is the Japanese release with the Aubrey strip. And you can see on the back there, again, 10 tracks. Let's have a look and see what's inside. I can't remember if I've ever opened this. So we have the album of the booklet. And what do we have over here? Ooh. Ooh, we have another booklet with some... Look at those pictures, they're gorgeous. And we have a mini single. We have the little one to the big one. So these are the two cherry red releases, similar to the previous releases, exactly the same layout as the others. There's a booklet with each one. And some of the similar pictures that are in the Japanese one. Lyrics. Oof, gorgeous. So you can see there's a much more grown-up, confident, sexy Kylie in this than previous albums. So again, there's two CDs and a DVD in this version, each in their own little card sleeve, which is very cute, with the details on the back. So obviously this one has additional tracks. And then we have the lovely big box set. So let's have a look at the big box set. I'm going to show you what I usually show you, which is particularly the picture disc and the booklet. Now again, it's all held in place in this huge box. Let's take this out, and we've got Kylie there. Here we go. First side picture disc is this, and second side, B side, is this, which is a track listing and a big star. That is absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that nice? Now, you will also remember that from the previous boxes of this, there's a huge poster inside. I'm going to pull back a bit so you can see just how big this poster is. That is huge. But that's, again, a very different picture of Kylie to anything else that's on the previous release. That's again another exclusive to this release, which is gorgeous. And then we have the 3 discs that are in here, the same as the other edition, but they are housed in this cute box. But essentially, it's the same. It's actually no, I keep forgetting. I always forget this bit. There's some postcards as well. And then the 3 discs. So that is different to the other edition, and that they don't come in that, and you don't get the postcards. And also, there is the full-size booklet, which again is probably similar to the previous one, but you've just got much bigger pictures inside. And the artwork from the singles as well, as you can see. There we go. That is the big collector's edition, which out of the 4 that were released by Cherry Red, of all 4 albums, this is the one that is the most rarest, is the word, I guess. There was much less produced. I didn't think they thought it would sell that well because it wasn't really as a success as the other albums. But this is really hard to get hold of, and if you look on any of the online auction sites, this goes for a lot of money. So looking back, what do I think of the album? Now, I think I said it earlier, it's one I'd listen to more often than the others. So in order of listening, so let's do a good ranking because we like that. I would say I listened to this one the most. Then probably Rhythm of Love. Depending on how I feel, maybe switch them around. Then the first album, then Enjoy Yourself. Enjoy Yourself is probably my least favourite of the 4. But I can give or take the first 2 albums pretty much any time. I don't really listen to those a lot, but I do listen to Rhythm of Love and Let's Get To It fairly regularly. They're pretty good albums. Well, I think the 90s feel of it definitely feels that it's something that was a deliberate move on behalf of Kylie and PWL. They knew that this was her last studio recording with them, and they knew that she was wanting a more dancey, more mainstream, more adult, more club sound. Didn't do well commercially, sadly. However, the tour was a really big hit. That was a sellout, and that did really well. And I think that probably maintained the album for a little bit longer than it would have otherwise. And it was after this that she parted direction with Stockacre and Waterman and went their separate ways. They decided to release a greatest hits album in 1992. And ironically, that became her 3rd #1 album with them and went on to sell 300,000 copies. So it actually did pretty well. So the album itself was all of her previous singles, plus 3 additional singles that were added to it. So they added What Kind of Fool, and they released that as a single in August 92, and it reached number 14. Where in the World was the second song that was added for the greatest hits, and the third one was Celebration, which they also released as a single in November 1992, and reached number 20 and was Kylie's final PWL formal release. And that was the end of Kylie's meteoric 4-year reign of Stockacre and Waterman and PWL. Now, I don't think it's surprising to anybody that Kylie really did build the house of Stockacre and Waterman. She sold probably more than anybody else on that label, and she will be forever grateful to them, as they will to her for what they both achieved. It was extraordinarily successful globally. And up until that point, they probably really hadn't had massive global success. The odd single, maybe, but never to the heights of Kylie. That was insane. She was an icon across the world. And obviously, breaking America at the time as well was huge. Stockake and Waterman had never done that with any of their other acts, apart from maybe the odd single like, I'm thinking maybe Divine or Dead or Alive, or maybe the one single from Bananarama, for example, but never an album, never a series of singles. That hadn't happened before. They went on to release, there was a limited edition release of this in Australia as Kylie's Non-Stop History 50 plus 1 remix album. So they wanted to extend the life of all of these singles a little bit extra. It's a little hit and miss in the mixing. It's not quite today's standard, but it's a fun pop entry for anyone who hasn't heard it. Go and check it out. Go and track it down. I don't know if it's on streaming, but go and have a look. I would say. And then the editions that I've just shown you were the 2015 editions that were released from Cherry Red. And this one, particularly the Let's Get To It release, being the rarest of the four that was released in smaller numbers and is now super collectible. So if you haven't got a copy and you see one at a good price, buy it. It's a lovely release. In terms of what this did for Kylie, I think we all know what comes next. It's the explosion of indie Kylie, cute Kylie, dance Kylie, pop Kylie, via the deconstruction rebranding of Kylie. And we'll come on to that one. I will come on to that next, my next videos. But I think this was a moment for her to really kind of grab hold of her career and say, I'm an adult now. I want to write these songs. I want to be more involved in the visuals, the look, the fashion, the sound, the design. I want to take control of my career and my destiny. And that's not uncommon of an artist of that age, particularly have gone through the Stockake and Waterman machine, because it's relentless and it's very well publicised that it is. And looking back with the amount of promo you have to do, the constantness of it would have been incredible to have experienced that. Not necessarily always in a good way, I don't think, because the amount of scrutiny was also intense. But it certainly gave Kylie a start to her career that catapulted her across the world and helped make her become the tiny Aussie pop princess that we all love. God bless Kylie.